Do I think Trump is playing 5D chess? Let's talk about it. My answer is no, but maybe accidentally. Hear me out. Because I can't really see any evidence for him playing 5D chess and any other aspects of his presidency and any other aspects of his life. He's a very blunt person who typically says what's on his mind. He's not really, let me hold back from saying what I'm thinking because of what the repercussions may be. And that was his whole appeal in the first place, right, guys? So I definitely do not think he plays 5D chess on purpose. However, there is one thing in his presidency that does kind of look like 5D chess accidentally. And that, my friends, is good old Israel. So what do I mean by that? So before Trump, even during his first term, really, for the past 50 or so years, Israel has been kind of lumped in with the rest of the countries who receive foreign aid from us. And it is a lot. It's, different countries in Africa, the Middle East, Europe. I mean, obviously there's NATO. And Israel was just kind of lumped in with all this in terms of how Americans looked at foreign aid. For the most part, for most Americans, foreign aid wasn't really something that was discussed, at least in depth. It obviously was very important to us post-Iraq and Afghanistan that we didn't want to be involved in foreign wars with our own military and our own soldiers. But in terms of sending foreign aid, this really didn't start coming to the forefront until recently. Nonetheless, with all of the foreign aid that we used to send everybody, Israel was lumped in with that. So they kind of stayed under the radar with Americans. Now, second term Trump is where we really see this change dramatically. And that's because in the beginning of his second term, he really is going blunt force with cutting foreign aid from everybody. Cutting foreign aid from the African countries for sure. I mean, those guys were the first to go. Obviously cutting or wanting to cut off Ukraine, slowing down aid to Ukraine, whatever the case was. He wanted to be done with Ukraine. Obviously wants to pull us out of NATO, different, Middle Eastern countries, so on and so forth. But there's one country who continued getting aid and even getting more of it. That's Israel. Now, this right away, when this happened, it did raise some flags here, did raise some antennas, even within MAGA, which I will give credit for, because trust me, there's a lot of you MAGA folks that just are like sheep. You just go along with whatever Trump does. It doesn't matter. You have no core principles. You never question it. Whatever he does, I see this a lot. I trust Trump, so if Trump feels like this is the best decision, it's the best decision. However, some of you have core principles that are consistent regardless of Trump or whoever the president is, right? And those MAGA folks, I started seeing a little bit of pushback here, wait a minute, we're supposed to be cutting everybody off. Why is Israel staying? And then after that, what happens? Netanyahu comes to the White House. There's the famous video and picture of Trump pulling out the chair for him, getting Netanyahu nice and comfortable. And we've never seen Trump act like that with any world leader, right? We've always, or a lot of his base anyway, has loved how he's he seems to be the dominant alpha male in the room when he's with other world leaders. But when he's with Netanyahu, that body language says something different. But what really, really tipped the boat and put a huge, huge microscope on Israel in terms of Americans. Now, again, obviously the Gaza stuff, that's been going on for, a year now, 2 years. Time is going by so fast. So that's been a huge concern for Americans on the left before Trump even took office. I'm not really referring to just the left because Israel was already losing credibility within the left, because of the Gaza thing. However, Israel was fully relying on the right, the American right, to kind of hold its water after losing a lot of the left. But when the Iran situation happened, That's what really, really tipped the boat for Israel. Because Trump ran on being very anti-war, not only specifically anti-war, but also anti-us getting involved with the Middle East. Famously, he probably won the Republican primary in 2015 because him having the only blunt position on Iraq and Afghanistan, calling it out, going vicious on Jeb Bush and every other neocon on that stage, and people loved it. So fast forward 10 years, and now, despite what our own intelligence is saying with, Iran's nowhere near a nuclear weapon, and Trump's still deciding to bomb Iran clearly for Israel. We all know Netanyahu has been trying to get regime change in Iran for decades, longer than some of you on this app have even been alive. So when people saw that, they were like, oh man, it's starting to feel like Trump isn't really the guy in charge here. It's starting to feel like Netanyahu maybe is the guy in charge, right? So the Iran bombing happens, and then after that, Trump posts this very big letter on Truth Social, basically lecturing the citizens of Israel, saying, how could you go after Netanyahu? He's such a great man, and you're going after him for these crimes and so on and so forth, right? And I'm going to come back to that at the end. So we have, like I said, Trump not cutting Israel off from foreign aid when he cut every other country off in the beginning of his second term. He also gave Israel $16 billion in March. So just within 1 month, he's giving them $16 billion while he's cutting every other country off. 2, the Iran bombing. Now, what is the number 3, the biggest, the cherry on top, if I may? Epstein. So obviously, Trump riled up his base. Same thing with Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, I guess. I didn't really follow her before this presidency. These people were all about going after the Epstein files, the Epstein clients. And there's always been rumors that Epstein was working with Mossad. He was an agent of Mossad, the Israeli intelligence. But because there's no, hard documentation on that exact connection, we really only have all this peripheral connection in terms of Ghislaine Maxwell's dad being a Mossad agent, right? So it is pretty convenient that Ghislaine Maxwell is his partner in crime. Her dad is Mossad. But, I guess we can't prove that Epstein himself was Mossad. Anyway, as of this week, the Trump administration says, case closed on Epstein. He offed himself. Nothing to see here. There's no client list. And then the day after that, what happens? Who comes to the White House? Your boy Netanyahu. Right on time, right on clockwork, baby. And Netanyahu makes a toast to him, and he says, you know what, Donald, I'm going to nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize. So what does this have to do with 5D chess? Well, by Trump eliminating every other country from our foreign aid, by Trump doing all these things that clearly benefit Israel, with us sending more aid to them, with us bombing Iran when Iran never attacked us, and then the Epstein thing, right? And then, again, I told you I'd come back to that letter where Trump is talking about his crime, Netanyahu's crimes, and how Israel should forgive him and blah, blah, blah. Americans really didn't know about, most Americans anyway, don't know about all the stuff Netanyahu is being investigated for in Israel. So with all these things, Trump has put a big magnifying glass on Netanyahu and our relationship with Israel. And now it's becoming more clear than ever to Americans that our relationship with Israel is not beneficial to us. In fact, it has a lot of negative consequences for Americans. So when I say accidental 5D chess, I look at it like Trump has accidentally made a checkmate on Netanyahu to pull us away from Israel, even if Trump didn't want that.